A national cathedral or not? That's arguably the biggest debate, or if you like, controversy in Ghana today after some 9 appeal court judges were served notices to quit their bungalows within the Ridge Enclave. Their 6-bedroom properties are just part of the several structures to be pulled down. The passport office within that enclave, the scholarship secretariat and other important structures will all be affected. Here are details of the cathedral planned for this area. We're looking at a 5,000-seater capacity building, and these are some of the extras expected to be found there. Gardens, we've got the chapel, the baptistry, a music school, choir rehearsal space, museum, a documentary center, and a lot more. We'll take you to the day that President Akufo-Addo unveiled the design for this particular project. He was in the company of some prominent men of God. Even on this day, President Akufo-Addo was well aware of a huge task of convincing Ghanaians to buy into the idea of a national cathedral.
Exactly a year ago, on 6th March 2017, the 60th year of our independence, I cut the sword for the construction of a national cathedral on my way to the Independence Square celebration. The purpose of the cathedral, as I indicated at the sword cutting, was to offer thanksgiving to the Almighty for his blessings to us as a nation, and to address a missing link in the nation's architecture by building a church for national purposes. We're grateful to the Almighty that exactly a year on, and once again on my way to the Independence Square celebrations, we're gathered here to unveil the design. I'm deeply grateful to the distinguished Board of Trustees, and the eminent clergy, and the Secretariat of the Cathedral Project for working around the clock to make this possible. One of the significant developments of the past year was the commissioning of an architect for the cathedral project. I'm proud to announce to the nation that we have commissioned one of the most iconic of contemporary global architects and a son of Ghana, David Ajay, as the main architect for the project. Throughout history, what has distinguished the great cathedrals and those with a national character is the broad mobilization of the entire community in support of the building and maintenance of the cathedrals. Before the cathedrals, this was true of the temples and the tabernacle. On Sunday, the 25th of February this year, I visited the Washington National Cathedral to go and worship, and was reminded once again of this truth. The challenge of building Ghana's national cathedral, therefore, relates to the mobilization of our people in support of the project. The broad representation of the Ghanaian Christian community at this event shows the emergence of a national coalition that will arise and build the cathedral to the glory of God.
So that is President Akufo-Addo, and this happened some time back. This is what is generating the controversy, and we have exclusive details for you when Manasseh Azura-Winnie joins me in the studio shortly. But let's hear from the architect that the president speaks about. He produced the design. His name is David Ajay.
My deepest honor to present to you the architectural vision for the National Cathedral of Ghana. Today, on Ghana's National Day of Celebration of Independence. Unveiled here today will be a unique 21st century landmark for Accra and the Ghanaian nation. A landmark where Christianity, democracy, and historic and local traditions are seamlessly and symbolically entwined in a new structure. Conceived as a physical embodiment of unity, harmony, and spirituality, It will be a place of inspiration, reflection, and common devotion. The nation's ceremonial landmark, Ghana's mother church, where all faiths are welcome to gather, worship, celebrate in spiritual accord. Housed within it will be rich, authentic celebration of Ghanaian tradition and culture, a traditional metaphor that speaks to the unification of West African regions, identity, and collective kingship, reflecting on the multiplicities of Christianity in Ghana in all its manifestations, enabling them to coalesce in an expression of Ghanaian unity and strength. The cathedral's form is derived from the traditional symbols of power, worship, and veneration, drawing on the references of both traditional heritage and Ghanaian and Christian symbolism. Christian architectural principles articulate the National Cathedral's proportions, orientation, and use of the number 12, referring to the apostles of the Lord. The draped roof form, which you'll see in a moment, draws from the great symbols of our traditional culture, such as the opulent Bowman ceremonial canopies, traditionally used to shade and protect our asantehins, and also in the Old Testament, a device which is used to shade the tabernacle of the Lord. The palette colors derive from our traditional color spectrum, talking about harmony, unity, our spirit as a nation, and of course, white is used to symbolize the power of the Ghanaian people as a form. We have also commissioned some of the most celebrated and progressive Ghanaian and African artists on the continent today to help us with the cathedral's religious adornment and furnishings. We hope that the cathedral will also form a new ceremonial route and landscape, also to be a gift to the nation, linking the cathedral to Ghana's prominent celebratory landmarks, Independence Square, Osu Cemetery, the State House, and the African Unity Circle. I hope you find the vision of the cathedral compelling and the venerable creation that so rightly befits the nation. I will quickly show you the presentation. Thank you.
So that is David Ejay. He is indeed the architect, and you've heard him. He's a renowned architect, known all over the world for what he's done in the United States of America. But we've kept our eye on this particular matter for you. Manasseh Azure Awene has been to Ridge. Now, at this point, you can safely call it a site. So Manasseh has been to the site and has exclusive details for us here in the studio. Manasseh, it's good to have you here. Now, first of all, let us understand the stretch of land under discussion here.
Well, the stretch of land is very massive, and if you know Ridge, from the Ridge roundabout, there's a road that goes towards Osu, and that connects you to Parliament and also to the International Conference Center. And the length is from the roundabout to the entrance of the International Conference Center. Now we have this map here which tells us exactly where we are talking about. So if you look at this side, this is the Ridge roundabout. This one from here, this is the road from Accra Central to Ridge roundabout, and then from here it continues to 37. Now if you move a little from the Ridge roundabout, you would realize that we have the surgeons and College of Physicians and Surgeons,
right.
And there's a building here.
Okay.
And if you take that building, from that building, and then there's the Jomo Kenyatta Road here, that comes straight. So you are talking about one street, another street, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. So this is where you have the State House, that's the Parliament House, where we often hold the ceremonial activities.
Right.
And this road I'm talking about is the Castle Road from the Ridge roundabout towards the stadium side, which goes to Osu. So you are talking about all of this stretch. And so this is the first part. We have some buildings.
Are we saying that all of that stretch is going to be demolished?
Yes, everything here is going to be demolished. I think this part houses and buildings I'm not quite sure about. The second one is where we have the passport office, and then at the back of the passport office you'd have some of the judges' quarters here. First, second, we have the judges' quarters. We have a few of the buildings here, and then the very last one here is where the scholarship secretariat is housed. So you're talking about quite a very long stretch from the runabout, the ridge runabout, all the way to the main entrance of the conference center. Before you get to conference center, there's something like a gate. So this is where you have all of that. So everything there is going to be affected by...
To be demolished. Well, Manasseh, you have been there this afternoon, and I'm wondering why the judges are rejecting this proposal, by the way.
The judges are, in principle, not against the construction of the cathedral, but they believe the cost to the state is going to be so massive or high that it would make economic, social, and moral sense, to quote one of them, to relocate it somewhere. For them, the Judicial Service recently started developing some projects that they have designed and constructed some buildings meant for appeal court judges. So we have 3 of them completed. We have 3 which are still under construction, and they got a call that they would have to move for the project to take place. Now, sources from government are also telling us that the movement or relocation of the judges is not because of the construction of the cathedral, and that the Judicial Service already had a plan to build and house the judges at a location in cantonments. Now, the question we are asking is, if that was the case, why do we have the letter addressed to the judges saying specifically that move because the National Cathedral is going to be built here, and the government officials, we have met with the government, and government is telling us that it would rent places for you, and in 16 months, that's 2020, the government will hand over 21 bungalows to be used by these judges. So there is a bit of a contradiction between what government is saying and what the content of the letter sent to the judges is also communicating.
Well, woman, I say it's interesting to find out that the judges are not in principle against it. They certainly have an issue with the siting. Do they have any proposals as to where else it could be, if not where their homes are located?
Well, some of them mentioned a number of locations on the outskirts of Accra. Some talked about the fact that even whenever there's a program, the place gets choked with traffic, so they could take it somewhere else. Some of them mentioned that there's a place behind Kempinski, a very large tract of land. Others are also saying that between the Independence Square and Asumdwe Park, there's also a large tract of land that can be used for that purpose. Otherwise, there are also areas outside of Accra that people or the government can use. So this is what some of them are saying, but they are basically saying that if you want to look at the cost of demolishing all of these buildings, some of which are still under construction, just even behind the the Scholarship Secretariat, a story building is under construction. It's not been completed, so it means all of those buildings are going to be demolished. And they talk of the cost to the state, and they believe they can achieve the same purpose somewhere else.
Achieving the same purpose somewhere else. Well, Manasseh, thank you so much for bringing us those details. But we will be speaking to some church leaders, some of the renowned church leaders we have in the country in a bit. But what do you think? Do you like this idea? Do you think they can achieve the same result elsewhere without costing the nation so much? Well, there's a poll on our Twitter page. You can go there and vote. We'll bring you the result as we continue with this conversation. But on the street, we've been asking some questions. Actually, the same question. Should a national cathedral be built? And should it be built even there? Should it be at Ridge? Listen to some of the responses we got.
It's not easy to move from one area to another area. It's not that easy. People have been there for years, and I think demolishing the place and relocating is going to be a problem for them. In fact, government is even going to look for money to resettle those people, I suppose. And I think it's a misplaced priority. Since look at what is going to happen this academic year, because of lack of infrastructure, we're going to have double track system, which we have never heard of before. So if they have that money after all, Why couldn't they complete the projects that was started for these schools?
Some of them have homes somewhere else. So if the National Cathedral should be built, I think it will also help the nation. I think Ridge itself, it's a kind of a point. If the cathedral is being built there, I think it's going to help.
I think the Ridge area is actually it's a catchment area. It's a catchment area, you understand? People normally commute through that area, you understand? So if a church is built around that area, I think it's a very good idea, because some places, most people don't actually use those places, you understand? Ridge area can come and then come together and then worship God in spirit and in truth. It's okay.
If only they will get, they can get them a different place to build for them, then I will say it's good. But if they are not going to get a place which is almost equal to the same venue for them, then maybe it is better for us to look for somewhere to find another place so that we can build that National Cathedral.
Okay, to me, if they will look at a place for those who live around, they will talk to them, and yeah, then they will understand. In my opinion, it's not good to do that. They have to find a place for that. So that they can build it in other areas, but not in Accra. Accra is congested, so yeah.
It's not a bad area though, but as far as they are demolishing like people's homes, I don't think it's a good idea.
So those are voices on the street. We've been asking them what they think about this. They've told us. I have in the studio with me Reverend Dr. Paul Frimpong Manso, who is the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God Church, Ghana. Say, you're welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, I was going to ask you what you thought of it, but I know what you think of it, because you're part of the board that will be managing that will be managing this particular cathedral. So let's go right into the questions and the issues that the judges, for example, are raising.
Thank you.
What can't we do this in a different place for the same results?
This is a very good question. It looks like Ghanaians don't see evolutionary changes that builds a society. Recently, they had a World Cup in UK. When you go to East London, there were a lot of facilities and a lot of things there. But for the sake of the World Cup, they demolished everything, moved every property, and got the fields, the malls, and everything there. So it is not the first time we are changing. I believe that there are architects, there are engineers, and there are designers. They might have looked into it. The president might have reasoned with them, and they came out. In Ghana, everybody seems to be a commentator and want to feel right. I may also not blame them, because sometimes we need to educate people for them to know some of these things. For me, the location is super. It is the best. You don't light to a light and put it in a bushel. This is something that's going to elevate Ghana. It's a national icon, national symbol. And when you place it, like London, we have Westminster Abbey, Westminster Chapel, like where we buried this great
Reverend, let me interrupt you. Those are things that was part of the planning of this of the country from the initial stages. So even if you go to the example you gave us in London, did you say South Africa? For the World Cup, that they broke down some things. First of all, if I will take you on that example.
I didn't use the South Africa anyway. Okay. I was talking about London Olympics.
It was London Olympics. Now, this is a country, you look at the resources, the economic strength of that particular country, you compare it to ours. We don't come close. So do we even have the resources to do this?
We have.
Are we comparing ourselves to, we don't have resources to completely roll out effectively a free SHS, a free senior high school that will put our children in school. But we are going to use money to build a church when we have other churches all over the place.
Many people have been arguing, but they have been very, very subjective and very, very lame. Thriving on popular opinion rather than real issues. First, the National Cathedral is going to be a national symbol, a nation under God. We all say Jinyame. Let me start from there. So when we are doing this,
We are telling the world that we are under God. And God deserves the best of location. The second is resources. Ghana is one of the wealthiest countries. There was a story in the Bible. A woman called Mary broke the alabaster oil, poured it on Jesus' feet. And Judas was saying this money could have been used to support the poor. Of course, he was a thief. The corruption in our country, where people are chopping money in huge and they go free, and every year, Accountant General report, Parliamentary Select Committee report, Auditor General's report, huge chunks of money are being wasted, are being stolen by people of all ranks. And these are the monies we need to rebuild the nation. Okay. I'm telling you, let us stop this national cathedral, and for the next 20 years, we will still have needs. Okay. The problem is corruption.
You say that the problem is corruption. Yes. And it's really easy to say that the problem is corruption because we know that it's very difficult to deal with corruption. But I'm wondering if God will be happy that people will be hungry, people won't go to school, and that he will have a cathedral in his honor, where there are other cathedrals. But Doc, let me not, I'll take that answer in a bit. Let me introduce you to one other bishop I have on the line now. His name is Bishop Benny Wood. He's a member of the Concerned Bishop. I think there's a group of concerned bishops. But concerned clergy. Bishop Benny Wood, thank you very much for your time this afternoon here on the show.
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon. Is the radio, right?
Yeah, we're on TV.
You're on TV, okay. So good afternoon to your viewers. Sorry, I couldn't make it today.
Very well. So I'm here speaking to the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God Church, who is obviously a member of those who are going to, a board member of those who are going to manage this. He believes, along with all the others who believe in his position, that this is a necessity for this country. That when it's an icon, a national icon, we make a case to the world that Ghana is under God. What do you think?
All right. Thank you once again. I think that, if you read the Bible carefully, you can see that the Bible makes distinction between what is good and what is right. And then the same Bible also talks about time. You understand? That is why in the Bible, Israel was supposed to go to the prophet to seek God's opinion on the things they do because of the issue of timing in terms of spiritual things. That said, when the idea was floated for the first time, I said, I think that looking at the dynamics of Ghana's politics and also development, something like that, as much as it may be said is good, I'm sure we could have done it in a better way, with a better planning done, because we are still in the midst of chaotic political and development season. And so in the midst of all these things, when you chip in something like that, it will definitely get a backlash.
So, Bishop Benny Wood, you say we could have, sorry to interrupt, you say we could have done it in a better way. What is this better way?
Let me tell you, for example, I'm told that the cathedral will be 5,000 seater.
Yes.
There are churches that are planning to build 30 to 50,000 auditorium. So this one cannot be anything the church will be proud of in any time. I mean, in the next few years, this will not be, no Christian will be proud of it for any reason. Because churches are building. In actual, we have auditorium that's just more than 5,000. So it can tell you that it's not something that the church is so crazy about. And that's what I'm saying that you could have done in a better way. Because whatever you are going to do, the church itself, these days, most churches are in the process of putting up buildings. Look at some of the magnificent auditorium churches are putting up in Ghana. You can see that the issue of national cathedral comes in when there is a shortage or there's an issue, or maybe the nation has come out of a difficulty, of a war, of a crisis, of a famine or something, and the nation needed a center where they can all rally around and lift up the name of God. National religious centers are not built in the midst of a condition like Ghana.
Okay.
Our present condition doesn't demand something like that because we are already doing it and doing it to be better than what the government can do.
Okay, so as far as you're concerned, the timing is bad.
Yeah, the timing is bad, and I think that what I think was that the government should have given it to the church, maybe for us to sit down and negotiate and plan, maybe for a long time.
Yes, but ultimately, it's the church that's going to handle it. There's a board that's been put in place to oversee this, and the board is made up of pastors.
You see, that's the issue. I mean, for me, those of you who listen to me on TV, on radio, I always want to deal with issues truthfully and honestly. You understand? Sometimes we like to color issues. And because of that, we always take decisions, and in the short run, we hit a snag. This is not something the church initiated. The church didn't initiate, the government that initiated, and the church bought into it. And I'm saying that once the government initiated it and gave it to the church, it should allow the church to sit down, take its time, do proper consultation across the kingdom.
That's a different issue, and I'll come to that. But let me bring Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manso in to give me a very quick response to your concerns. And let's see. And especially, this is actually really good because, Doc, you are on the board. Now you have a colleague pastor, I should put it, who has concerns, and his concerns make sense. I mean, they make sense to me, at least. That he's saying that usually people go through things, and when you go through things as a country, you raise up what, let's say, let me borrow biblical words to say, you raise an altar in worship of God because of what you have been through. But Ghana has not been there yet. As we speak, we have issues with our economy. We have issues. Why do we even go there?
Yes, that is his thinking, and it's very good. You know, sometimes we have to be open to everyone so that we can come out with good solutions. When Noah came out of the flood, he has no house, nowhere to stay, no business, nothing. The first thing he did was to offer a sacrifice, build an altar. Of course, when the Israelites even returned from their captivity, they did the temple under Ezra before the walls of Jerusalem were built. As much as I agree with him and I sympathize with him, and as much as we see needs, difficulties, in America today, there are homeless people.
But there are a lot more homeless people in Ghana if you put it together relatively, in terms of our size. Our size as a country.
Recently, I was in California. I saw people
of us
sleeping.
Are running to America, by the way.
I know in London, even in the winter, some people are finding it difficult to get places to stay. So for needs, they will always be there. My argument is, God first. So if the nation is doing this, we are invoking God's presence. And I had wished we would be able to do all that we want to do to help people. But I'm saying that let us stop this National Cathedral and say it's not important. The next 100 years, we will be in the same state. The problem is not the National Cathedral. The problem is the attitude of Ghanaians to change from corruption to do hard work and put the nation first. So this National Cathedral has nothing to do with why we are underdeveloped, undernourished, why we are suffering from education or whatever. We have had independence over 60 years.
What it has to do with is that we will be putting in a lot of money. But Reverend Bishop Wood, please hang on for me. Let me bring you back, Dr. Frimpong Manso, to the issue at Rage. And we have scores of properties that's going to be demolished. Will you be happy if you had a property there?
Yeah, I will come in. But before then, let me solve an issue. He talked about the size. National Cathedral is not necessarily the biggest building in the city to accommodate all Christians. It's a symbolic. That tells us that we recognize God. It could be very small or large, but it's a system. So the argument is not 5,000 or 2,000.
So it doesn't matter whether it's a 5,000 seater or 50,000.
Moving people.
Yeah.
Whether people live
moving people, destroying properties.
Let me tell you.
What millions of cities, I suppose.
Unless something is destroyed, something cannot be rebuilt. Of course, hurricanes destroy things,
But those
fire,
are hurricanes, you don't foresee
others.
hurricanes. They have their natural disasters.
So
This is not a natural disaster. This is man taking it upon himself to pull down structures that people have put in money to build.
It is good. In fact, when things are happening, we must allow things to happen in order to get new things. So it is sad, it is painful now. What I have said on other platforms is that if a blind man will tell somebody that I will throw a stone at you, it means his feet is already, or foot is already on the stone. The president is a lawyer. He believes in the rule of law, and most of the people who have affected are judges. Very, very important estate of this nation. Do you think they will be thrown away without thinking about them or leave them in jeopardy? In this country, there is a law. Even if you have a kiosk on a roadside, and you have got the proper documents, before you are relocated, you are compensated or you have been put in different places. So I want to believe that the government will have dealt with the legal system, the Chief Justice, the Judicial Committee. There will be a lot of things going on, and then they will resettle these people. Of course, I'm concerned about our judges.
Why don't we just do it the easy way? Look for a different, we have land in this country. Look for a different location. Now, even in Accra, even if you want to do it in Accra, there are still different locations where it can be done. Why does it have to be there, destroying people's properties?
Why is it, if I have lived in Kumasi for long, several years ago, you know the houses in Adum, why were they being pulled down and the bigger houses were being built? Why didn't they leave those houses, went to other parts of Kumasi, and build other houses? In Accra too, even in the center of Accra, I've seen a lot of houses emerging, but there were houses there. We did not leave these houses there. Why? So when society is changing, these things will happen. For me, the most important thing is that let us make sure that the judges and those who lose their properties are adequately compensated, they are relocated, and especially for the judges, they are more secured. Going to offices, they will not encounter traffic and frustrations.
So, Doc, why don't we use the money to compensate the judges? Why don't we put it into free SHS? Why don't we put it into rural development? Why don't we put it into our electricity problems? Why don't we put it into water and build this cathedral in a different place where we don't have to
It is a
destroy
great
properties?
pain, I feel, when people treat anything to God as secondary. I have taught on different platforms that there are three things that makes the nation and that makes individual. First, the principle of God first, putting God first in whatever we do. Second, the principle of vision, having vision, and the principle of hard work. To me, this is just a symbol, but it speaks a lot. It will tell people that at least Ghanaians acknowledge the fact that there is a God who rules and reigns. In fact, I have done some research on businesses around the world, and something is emerging: God factor. So for some companies and businesses, they even employ chaplains, pastors, malams, whatever, to bring that God factor. To me, I'm an enthusiast of this vision. Today, we may not see the importance. Probably by the time we have dead and gone, another 100 years, Ghanaians will say that this is one of the best things that has ever happened to our society.
Well, Doc, stay with me a little longer. We're going to keep talking about this for some time. Bishop Wood, if I have you on the line, how do you respond to this? The God factor is important, he says, and it's very bad, and it looks as if that's what people seem to be doing from his argument, that people are putting God second instead of putting him first. And now when we go ahead and we do this, we're actually putting God first. Does this argument, settle with you?
Dr. Frimpong Manso is a senior reverend, so I don't want to seem to be arguing with him in terms of what is being done for the kingdom.
No
but
problem. What do you think?
I think that so far I've not heard an argument that convinces me that at this particular moment we need any monument like that, because Ghana, I mean, when you talk about God, in Ghana we don't need a monument before we recognize the God factor in our activity. Look at all our swearing in papers and other things, when we do our Independence Day, everything about Ghana is God. Everything about Ghana, including even those who don't believe in God. That is how we are. We are religious people. We adore God. We love Him. My point is that there is always, it is not for anything when God said that there is time for everything. And that's why I'm saying that. That's why when you conceive an idea, you take it through the thought process because of the time factor. You understand? And the fact that this has even become a national conversation is an indication that something is not right. And we as religious people, we have to be very careful when we are pushing something that the society is resisting, not resisting because it is maybe something that if it's not done, something calamity will happen. But when the society feels that, look, this is something that we are expecting you people to take the lead and do something different rather than this. Because already go to America and other countries, they have adopted churches and turned it into national cathedrals. In America, where Trump was,
Doc tells me that this point you make is not actually true. He says it's not true. It's not true that
America has got a national cathedral in Washington,
but that they've also adopted churches.
But we are talking about national cathedrals.
Okay. Please go ahead.
The church that Trump had his first prayer meeting, it's not a national cathedral.
Okay, Bishop Wood, please go ahead with the point you were making. You don't believe that this is good timing, and you had an issue also with
if a nation is already a religious nation, they don't do those things.
Okay.
That's why in Europe and other places, you don't see national cathedrals there. That's the point I am making.
You had an issue.
We are already in God. We are already serving. God is loud in Ghana.
That point has been made. That you made that point. What I wanted to find out again is that you had concerns about consultation. You say that the consultation has not been broad enough.
That's right. Oh, as for that one, but I mean, in terms of consultation, it has always been skewed. When it comes to religious issues, it has always been skewed, even within the kingdom of God. But because we all believe that things that are done will always be done in the interest of the church, but it is always skewed. So they don't have a broader consultation in terms of what is good for the kingdom. They assume that once they get certain category of people and talk to them, we should let it go. But we have taken it in our stride, and we always support them when they come together as a body and do things in the interest of the church. But I think that they should have done a broader consultation discuss it, possibly even a conference, bringing all of us together if they want this thing to be accepted by the body of Christ in Ghana.
Okay.
But to just make it a small group of people and I mean the other issues I don't want to talk about maybe when I get a better time, because the whole thing is troubling.
You think that the consultation was skewed, but
it's not just a consultation. Everything about it is not sound. It's not sitting well. I've spoken. Look, I'm a head of Concerned Clergy Association. I've spoken to a lot of pastors. Every pastor wants to see Ghana declared even as a Christian nation publicly by all the presidents. But I'm telling you that this thing doesn't sit well. Not because they don't want it. Which pastor doesn't want a cathedral for God? Every pastor wants it. But we live in a country, we should be sensitive to events that are happening around us. That's all we are saying.
Okay. Now, finally, before I let you go, from where you sit, where do we go from here? What should be the next steps? What are your expectations and the expectations of the concerned clergy?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have a say, and we have little power to do anything about it. But we just continue to observe and pray. If they seek our opinion, we'll give. If they don't, that's fine. We'll all go on and continue to believe God that in the end, all things will work together for good.
All things working together for good. Bishop Benny Wood, thank you so much for your time. Bishop Benny Wood is with the concerned clergy, and they are obviously not happy with this because they're talking about the timing. They say the timing isn't right. There hasn't been broader consultations, and Doc, I'm coming to you about broader consultation. I mean, why? Why haven't you broadened the consultation? Why are you just keeping it among a few of you?
Yeah, I want to appreciate the bishop, who is a good friend of mine, and I like him because he speaks his mind on issues like this. But before I answer your question, what Ghanaians are doing is very, very healthy. we say that in the midst of vices, there is virtue. That means when you squeeze an orange, you get a juice. And for things like this, it is healthier if people will speak their mind and then they will get their issues resolved. This is what we call Hegelian evolutionary philosophy of comeback. Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. So the thesis is build a national cathedral. The antithesis is why build a national cathedral? So we work together, and then there's what we call synthesis, where we all can agree. So when the VAT came, that was Kumi Preko, but it didn't destroy the VAT.
I just want us to focus on
no,
this.
I have to build
I
the
get
case.
the example.
No,
I get the example, but I want us to.
I am answering. I will come there. Please give me the chance.
I'll give. I mean, we're talking for quite some time.
Yeah,
we're
that's why I'm here.
Time, right.
We did the Kumi Preko, but VAT came. When health insurance was coming, people spoke against it. It came. And when free SHS started, people were speaking, so it would have been rather strange if people had not spoken against it.
But no, properties weren't destroyed.
But human lives, for example.
But anyway, let's stay with this matter.
For the consultation, I agree. But what we are doing now is even consultation. So I believe that it is not too late to know that the president had an idea. He selected a committee or a trustee. We have started. Ghanaians are talking. I will say that what the board of trustees should do is to have more engagement with civil society, with the media, with traditional rulers, with all the citizenry to get their ideas. These things will not kill or destroy the vision, but it will push us in a better way to do it.
I'm going to go on Twitter, on our Twitter handle to take some of the comments. We've actually been running a poll there to find out how you're voting on this particular matter. But he says that this is another issue, but the other issue about why this particular thing has to be done now. People are resisting. Why, if you say it is consultation, why are you not responding to the criticism? Why are you not responding to the resistance? That, okay, we want to do this, but we work for the people, we serve the people don't want it. So
they are not resistant. There's another way, it's a language. They want clarity and understanding. So when people are pushing to understand certain things, you can see that they are resisting, but I see that they rather want more clarity and more openness.
That's how you see. You don't see this as resistance.
I don't see that as
okay,
resistance.
I'll take you to Twitter and tell you what they think. But retired pastor of Elim Pentecostal Church, Bishop Lionel Curry, is asking governments to reconsider this decision, as it is a misplaced priority. He was in the country over the weekend. Let's hear him.
I think it could be in some ways, because what are they going to do with it? Just every so often there'll be a national service or something, and they've got plenty of auditoriums where they can do that. So I think not just with the Ghana government, with many other governments, I think sometimes they decide on something which is for them, forgetting that there are people who are really suffering and struggling. So I shouldn't say this as an outsider. Maybe they should think again.
So, well, we're getting a lot of views coming all over the place, from within and from without. Of course, Doc, how do you respond? This is a misplaced priority.
Well, this is wonderful. It makes me happy. As a theologian and a biblical scholar, even in the Bible, we agree and disagree. Baptized by immersion, baptized by sprinkling.
But as to whether or not the agreement and the disagreement will change the position or will change anything, that's important.
This is a vision of the president. And disagreement.
The president is serving us, is serving the people.
We
and
have
the people are
given him
saying,
mandate.
the people have raised concerns.
He has got a mandate. And so if he will not allow anybody to talk about it, then that is wrong. But when people are talking about it, it means it probably needs repackaging, realigning, and making it clearer and better. Sometimes the way he may see things may be different way we will see things.
Okay.
So we rather need to realign our vision to see how he's seeing so that together we can move forward.
Okay.
After all, let Ghanaians use elections in the next almost 2 years.
Well, by the time we get to the next election, if they go ahead to destroy the properties will already be destroyed. But let's go on Twitter. Let's see what people are saying. Part of the consensus, as Dr. Frimpong Manso here calls it. So we're asking you, should a national cathedral be built in the first place? Outrage, not outrage. Okay, so here is how the results look like. As far as the results we have here is concerned, there are those who have who say an emphatic no, don't build a national cathedral. And there are those who say yes, go ahead and build a national cathedral. But there are those in the middle who say yes, by all means go ahead and build a national cathedral, but do not build it at Ridge. It should not be at Ridge. 17% of the people who have participated in this vote say yes, let's build it, but let's build it at Ridge. It works for them, 17%. 23% say yes, let's go ahead and build it, but let's not build it at Ridge. Ridge is not the place for this. 60%, now a whopping 60% say no, don't build a national cathedral at all. They're not even talking about the siting. They say no, don't build a national cathedral at all. What do you think?
Can I say what percentage says yes?
17%. 17% say yes. So you can actually add 17 to even 23 because they're all saying yes.
I'm okay. In vision development, you need 10% of people to support you. There will be 10%, even if you kill yourself, they will never support you. And the 80% are potential. So the 17% is a good number. All that this 17% need to do is to trumpet the idea, to educate, convince, and win, and encourage the 60%. I think the 60% are saying no because they have been confused. There has been a lot of misinformation. People have thrown dust into their ears and they are just following the masses. I don't want to inform them, but this is what is happening. And so it's not a matter of rushing. It's a matter of educating one by one, encouraging people. I tell you, the man who is saying, even arguing about it, in his nation, they have a national place where they...
So I get your reaction, your reaction to the vote. So that's okay for me. So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? How much is it costing us to build this cathedral?
I don't think I have the figure.
You don't? It's not been discussed with the Board of Trustees?
It is not my responsibility to discuss the cost. Even if it is discussed the Board of Trustees, in a body, everybody has got a responsibility. There is somebody who can do it better. So why don't allow that person? And possibly we have a secretariat.
So who is that person?
We have Reverend Dr. Paul Frimpong Manso, who is the Cathedral Trustee, Executive Secretary. His office is at the near the State Protocol.
I'm a bit curious. You've just spoken about corruption. I mean, you had Assemblies of God Ghana. That's huge. And you are on the Board of Trustees for this. Shouldn't you be interested, since we're all concerned about the way we use money in this country, that you wouldn't you be concerned to ask how much is costing us?
There are protocols. In your company, there is a responsibility that is given to you. There's a responsibility that is given to your CEO, Group Secretary. So my responsibility is not to go and talk about costing.
No, I'm not even talking about the responsibility.
No, that's why I'm telling you that it is not the best. But I have told you,
you won't tell us.
It is not my responsibility.
Okay, you know how much it will cost.
What I want to tell Ghanaians is that people are contributing, individuals are donating, and this thing is not only going to be a liability, but it's even going to be income generation. In fact, when the thing comes out and Ghanaians sees it, it is going to cater for itself and even generate income for the nation. But that's another ball game. That's why I'm saying that we are a committee. We are Board of Trustees. Certain responsibilities are assigned to the board chairman. Certain responsibilities are assigned to the chief executive officer. Certain responsibilities are assigned to the secretary, different people. And I should leave their responsibilities to them. I am not the one who is to talk about the costing, even though I know of the costing. I would rather want you to speak to those people who are directly involved with the costing.
Okay, so we know people are going to donate. That's what you say.
Yes.
So there's a way that the Board of Trustees are working to get
Even my own
donations.
church member has already donated
So,
2 million.
Your church members have donated 2 million.
One person in my church.
What is this strategy of payment? Who is collecting those monies?
We have an account with, I think, one of the banks. It is that, like I'm saying that, I am not in that area. But if we get a
but there is an account. I just want to be sure that I'm getting you clearly.
There's an account.
There's an account, and people are donating into that account. So this is being funded by donors or Ghanaians and by government.
Yes, donors, individuals. Even your station can make an appeal for us, even as I'm speaking. Just like you make a appeal for people.
I just want to be clear on this. You've spoken about how people are having dust thrown in their eyes.
Yes.
You are here. We don't need to throw dust in people's eyes. We need to get people the clarity that they need to make up their mind. You say that people are donating. So this is the building, the cathedral is going to be built by donations and government funds.
Yes.
Donation and government funds.
Yes, that's what I've been told.
And already your church members have contributed.
Only one person.
Only one.
First Sky Group, Eric. When we launched the program, when he celebrated his 15th anniversary, gave 2 million cedis paid. And I know that others are giving, but since I'm not in that committee, I may not be able to tell you. And even as I'm speaking, I will wish that your multimedia will give us a platform to trumpet this good thing and encourage Ghanaians to donate.
When do we start the construction?
Anytime soon. As soon as the land is cleared and we have comfortably and reasonably relocated all those who are there, and has also compensated those who need to be compensated adequately. We don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. So at the end of this, we want everybody to be happy, satisfied, and those of us who are Board of Trustees, all of us are pastors. And pastors show concern with people. For the pastoral work, it is people first before projects.
Okay, so as soon as the people are relocated, as a, I mean, we know that the church likes to do things properly. So as a board of trustees that is made up of people who supervise churches that do things properly. I am assuming that there is a plan that we're following and that there is a timeline.
Yes.
What are the timelines? Because once again, we're talking about clarity, giving people who are watching us clarity on this. What is the timeline?
I have tried not to confuse myself because we have strategy and everybody is handling something. My area is to tell Ghanaians that it is very, very good, it is going to help us, and it's not going to be a national liability, and the time is now. We should really be behind our president and the team to make it done. And of course, in doing this, we will respect every individual and we'll make sure that it is done right.
We want the time.
The timeline is another person, but my assumption is that the president wants this thing fast. And I remember when we were launching it, unveiling it, our chairman, Reverend Dr. Asantiem Tree, said the president is running fast. So we wish it was started yesterday. So we will do everything possible to make sure that adequate compensation, we have done everything right to get it done. I wish it could be completed even next year, but I believe that in the next 4 or 5 years, if it is not done at this first term, by the middle of this president's second term, Ghanaians will have this cathedral.
By are you already predicting that the president will sustain a second term in office?
I believe, I don't want to be a politician.
You're sounding like one.
No, but he believes, no, it is not my wish. It is his belief. He believes that he will come this time and will come again the second term. So if it is not completed this time, he will get it finished. In an event he is not there, I believe that whoever comes on will also be sympathetic with his predecessor's vision and get it finished. I don't want to wade into politics. I'm not a politician. I'm a pastor, and I'm happy to preach the word of God.
Reverend Dr. Paul Frimpong Manso is the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God. They like to say Gagai. I know your terms,
Yes.
right? Okay.
What is
So we don't really know when exactly this will start, but he tells us between now and next year. And if it doesn't happen so, in the next 4 years, whoever becomes president should finish it. We'll see how it goes. But Reverend, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. It's always
In the meantime, 60%. In the meantime, 60% of those who participated in our voting process on Twitter say, no, you don't need a cathedral. Some say you do need it. Go ahead to do it, but don't do it at rage. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando.